Palace of Versailles was known as the center hub of the absolutist regime during Louis XIV's reign. It was built with the intent to organize the administration of the kingdom by diverting the previously rebelling nobility into a fabulously lavish court life. The palace in its entirety covers 87,728,720 square feet, 721,206 square feet of which is floor space of the palace itself. And every square foot was dedicated to representing the king and his divine right to absolute rule. One of the most potent symbols of the Sun King's power was the construction of the Hall of Mirrors, depicting the military and diplomatic victories and the history of Louis XIV during the first 18 years of his rule. The building of this room is a representation of the sheer economic power the French monarchy exercised, containing a total of 357 mirrors decorating the 17 arches opposite the windows, which at the time were a great luxury. The hall was generally used for a variety of events, but was flaunted extensively during royal weddings or diplomatic receptions, where the throne was placed on a platform at the end of the hall near the peace room. The peace and war rooms were symmetrical to each other, the peace room an integral part of the Queen's life, and the war room a shrine to Louis XIV's victories in battle, specifically his defeated enemies, Germany, Spain, and Holland. Looking out through the central window in the Hall of Mirrors to the gardens presented a breathtaking view of the grand perspective, appearing to stretch beyond the horizon itself. There are 400 statues throughout the gardens, many of which are Apollonian references, going hand in hand with the sun myth developed by Louis XIV. And every single one of the statues serve as metaphors for the king's power, magnanimity, and strength. The carefully trimmed, symmetrical landscaping symbolizes the king's divine power over nature. This is further exemplified in the ornate fountains with still water at their base, showing that even during the hardest of times, nothing can shake the foundation of the absolute monarchy. The end of the 30 Years' War brought about an exhaustion felt throughout all of Europe. Directly after this in France came the Parliamentary Fronde, which was the attempt of French nobility to protect their liberties and prove their leadership effective against the monarchy. Their loss resulted in the lack of a counterbalance to the king and a perfect opening for Louis XIV to make radical changes to the government and its exhausted citizens. After Cardinal Jules Mazarin's death, Louis XIV pronounced he would rule without a chief minister, giving him absolute power over France's government. In order to appease the nobles, he invited them to reside at the Palace of Versailles, where their lives would soon revolve around the king, and he could keep a close eye on their actions. All of the artworks in the palace exuded a sense of the Sun King's supremacy, depicting him as Apollo or Jupiter, which acted as a visual reminder that Louis XIV's divine power could never be questioned, just as God was never questioned. Montesquieu identifies many personality traits of Louis XIV that has led to the lack of a good government. All of the traits fall under a similar umbrella term, hypocrisy. He claimed to be a devout Catholic, yet failed to practice it. He feared having a good general at the head of his military as much as he feared seeing a good general leading enemy armies, because he knew that he could not share the limelight of success, even if it meant defeat at the hands of a skilled enemy general. Montesquieu's philosophy in the separation of powers challenged the corrupted belief that one man's opinion is the divine ruling of God, because even King Louis XIV in his tight-fitting white stockings is nothing more than a human.